June 6, 1944. The most important invasion in modern history was about to begin. Thousands of Allied soldiers were preparing to storm the beaches of Normandy. But before a single man could reach France, the United States Navy had to get them there. As dawn broke over the English Channel, the horizon disappeared beneath warships, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, landing ships, thousands of landing craft. It was the largest invasion fleet ever assembled. Ahead, Normandy. Behind those cliffs waited Hitler's Atlantic Wall. Reinforced bunkers, heavy artillery, machine gun nests. Every German gun was pointed toward the sea. Then, at 5:50 in the morning, the waiting ended. The battleship USS Nevada unleashed one of the opening salvos. Seconds later, USS Texas joined the fight. Then, USS Arkansas. Heavy cruisers roared to life. Destroyers added their own rapid-fire barrage. Within moments, thousands of shells were crashing into the French coastline. 16-inch guns hurled enormous projectiles deep into German defenses. Entire hillsides vanished behind smoke. Concrete exploded into the air. The fleet wasn't trying to destroy every bunker. It was trying to buy time. Every gun knocked out. Every German position forced to keep its head down was another chance for the soldiers heading toward the beaches. But the Germans weren't finished. As the smoke drifted across the coastline, massive coastal guns answered. Towering columns of seawater erupted around the fleet. One shell landed just off the bow of a destroyer. Another crashed between two transports. Fragments screamed across the decks. Lookouts shouted bearings. Helmsmen threw their ships into hard turns. Gun crews never stopped loading. Round after round. The bombardment continued. Then came the order every sailor had been waiting for. Launch the landing craft. Almost instantly, the sea came alive. Hundreds of small landing craft peeled away from the larger transports. Then hundreds more. Wave after wave pushed toward the beaches, inside every boat. American soldiers sat shoulder to shoulder. Outside, Navy coxswains gripped the controls. There was only one direction to go, straight at the enemy. The closer they came, the rougher the water became. Shells exploded all around them. Machine gun fire skipped across the waves. Mortars threw walls of water into the air. Then the obstacles appeared. Steel hedgehogs, massive wooden stakes, many fitted with explosive charges. Every obstacle was designed to stop the invasion before it reached dry land. The coxswains threaded their boats through narrow gaps. Some made it. Others struck hidden obstacles. A few disappeared beneath smoke and spray. Still, the line behind them never stopped. For every boat hit, another took its place. As the first waves closed on Omaha and Utah, the battleships shifted their fire farther inland. The landing craft were now on their own. The ramps dropped. Soldiers poured into the surf. From offshore, the Navy watched the beaches disappear beneath smoke. At first, everything looked like it was unfolding according to plan. Then the radio traffic changed. Urgent messages flooded back from Omaha Beach. German machine gun positions had survived. The bombardment hadn't silenced them. Landing craft were taking devastating fire before reaching the sand. Some drifted back toward the fleet riddled with bullets. Others never returned. The invasion was beginning to stall, and every minute that passed, more soldiers became trapped behind the tide. The officers aboard nearby destroyers could see it with their own eyes. Smoke covered the shoreline. Explosions ripped through the surf. Men hugged the seawall with nowhere to go. The Navy had already fired thousands of shells. But it wasn't enough. Something had to change, fast. No admiral had ordered what happened next. No battle plan called for it. The decision belonged to a handful of destroyer captains. Instead of staying safely offshore, they turned directly toward Omaha Beach. Closer and closer. Some closed to within roughly 1,000 yards of the shoreline. It was an incredible risk. The water was shallow. Sandbars threatened to ground the ships. German artillery could now see them clearly. But if the destroyers stayed back, the men on the beach might never break through. One after another, the destroyers opened fire. USS McCook, USS Frankfurt, USS Carmack, USS Doyle, USS Emmons. Their 5-inch guns fired as fast as their crews could load them. Unlike the battleships, These weren't blind bombardments. The destroyers could see the targets. Machine gun nests hidden in the bluffs, concrete bunkers overlooking the beach. Artillery flashes from concealed positions. Every time a German gun revealed itself, another salvo answered. 5-inch shells ripped into cliffs only moments after the enemy fired. Entire bunker entrances disappeared beneath explosions. Observation posts collapsed. German positions that had pinned soldiers down for hours suddenly fell silent. Some destroyers fired so many rounds that their gun barrels became dangerously hot. Crews worked without stopping. Shell after shell, magazine after magazine. Smoke rolled across the decks. The air smelled of cordite. Every concussion shook the ship from bow to stern. German artillery quickly shifted its attention. The destroyers became the new targets. Columns of water erupted only yards away. Fragments clanged against steel hulls. Near misses drenched gun crews with seawater. Yet not a single captain broke off the attack. They held their positions. Knowing every minute they remained there gave the soldiers on the beach another chance. Slowly, the reports from Omaha began to change. Small groups of American troops were moving inland. Engineers started blasting gaps through beach obstacles. German strongpoints that had dominated the shoreline were disappearing one by one. The beachhead was finally beginning to grow, but for the Navy, the mission was far from over. Even as the fighting continued, landing craft were already returning to the fleet. Some came back carrying wounded soldiers. Others returned completely empty, their crews turning around almost immediately for another trip. There was no time to rest. Fresh infantry climbed aboard. Engineers loaded explosives. Medical personnel prepared for casualties. Every hour, the beachhead became stronger. Every hour, the chances of driving the Allies back into the sea became smaller. German aircraft made only scattered attacks. The Luftwaffe, once one of the most feared air forces in the world, could do little to stop the endless stream of ships below. At sea, the Kriegsmarine was almost absent. The Allied fleet controlled the channel. That control gave the invasion something every successful amphibious assault depends on: freedom to reinforce. As darkness slowly settled over Normandy, the firing finally began to fade. Smoke still drifted above the beaches. Ships still maneuvered offshore. Landing craft were still making crossings. But the impossible had become reality. The Allies had established a foothold in occupied France. It had come at an enormous cost. Thousands of soldiers had been killed or wounded. Hundreds of sailors had lost their lives or watched friends disappear beneath the waves. Dozens of ships and landing craft had been damaged or destroyed. Yet the invasion had survived its most dangerous day. When people remember D-Day, they usually picture the beaches, the cliffs, the soldiers charging through the surf. Those moments deserve to be remembered. But beyond the shoreline, another battle had been unfolding. Battleships trading fire with coastal batteries, destroyers risking everything by closing to point-blank range, minesweepers clearing deadly paths before dawn, landing craft crews making trip after trip through artillery and machine gun fire, corpsmen treating the wounded before the beaches were even secure, supply ships delivering the ammunition, fuel, food, and equipment that transformed a fragile landing into a permanent foothold. Without them, the invasion could not have continued. The army could not have advanced. The liberation of Western Europe might never have begun. On June 6, 1944, the United States Navy did far more than carry soldiers across the English Channel. It cleared the way. It protected the crossing. It shattered enemy defenses. It kept the beaches supplied. And when the invasion stood on the edge of failure, its destroyers sailed toward the guns instead of away from them. That courage helped change the course of the Second World War. And it all began with a fleet that refused to stop moving. Because on D-Day, victory didn't arrive on a single ship. It arrived with an entire navy.